Dog culture in the United States is like a modern form of socialist or communist regime. Okay, so we're talking about the United States. So let's just start off with a little summary about the United States. So we have the most dogs. On the whole planet Earth, we have the most dogs. Estimated 90 million dogs. All these dogs that we have no infrastructure to handle the toxic waste that they bring to our environment. But this is just a little summary here. Let's go to our next one. So this is what I'm talking about. So communist regimes, they suppress dissent to maintain control and power. So they use dogs to suppress consent because they also use dogs to manufacture consent. So this is what I'm talking about right here, manufactured consent. So one of the ways that they manufacture consent is through the media, celebrities, stuff like that. And if you want to know some really interesting stuff about this, check out Noam Chomsky's concepts or check out the book. He talks about all this type of stuff. Okay, next up. Yes, many people think that if you have a dog, then you're a good person. You're a good, compassionate person. So this leads to generalizations that may not be true. But everybody knows this. Like, I got this little summary up for everybody, and I'll have some sources put in the description. But everybody knows this. Everybody thinks that if you have a dog, you're a good person, and if you don't like dogs, that you're some POS. Yeah, so next slide. So celebrities, for example, they use dogs as part of their public image. Celebrities like Oprah and other ones, Dave Bautista with all his pit bulls, they're always showcasing their dogs. They're always talking about the money they give to dog shelters and other stuff like that. Money that actually lowers their income so they can pay less taxes. But yeah, celebrities do this all the time. It's how they gain influence because we're a dog worshipping society. And our government does this too. So, for example, the spending bills, there's one called the PAW Act. And so, one of the things this does, including giving hundreds and thousands of dollars to pay for dog parks, one of the things they do is it allows you the money that you spend on your dog, your veterinary, can go under your health savings account. So that's a federal program that's partly taxpayer funded, but they're going to allow you to use the spending that you do on your dog against that. So our government has tons and tons and tons of programs, emotional support animals, and other stuff like that that you can do to get basically get paid to run around and showcase your dog. If you want to know more about that, I'll put a longer video where I show all my sources about that. But my point of showing you guys is the fact that spending bills like this go towards dog ownership. Why would the government support dogs? Dogs don't freaking pay taxes because they want us to have more dogs, because it's a method for them to take more taxes from us to do this, to control us. Okay, so what's this one here? Our next slide. Um, Recent legislation, we're talking about the government still. Recent legislation has included provisions related to animal welfare and programs. So if you go look in here in the House of Representatives, many of these bills right here have provided provisions to pay for more stuff for dogs, more dog parks, more huge $1 million shelters, and other things like that. Like in Texas, they had like an $11 million dog shelter that they're building, but yet they have a budget deficit for other stuff like school programs, sports, and wrestling and basketball. So that's just an example of how our government really promotes dog ownership. Okay, and as we know, politicians use dogs in their campaigns all the time. It's to enhance their image. Dogs can portray politicians as relatable and compassionate. President Joe Biden, he did this during his campaign and during his presidency, constantly showcasing those German Shepherds. And then they ended up biting the Secret Service people like 20 or more times. But people love that because oh, he has a dog, he must be a good guy. And so here's just some pictures from around our country, what I'm talking about. You know, here's Obama with his dog. You know, after he had those dogs, the adoptions for those dogs went up. You know, Richard Nixon, he used dogs. You know, even the police officers during these riots used dogs against the black population, and that helped them escape scrutiny. It helped them escape dissent, and it helped manufacture consent. Because when people see dogs doing something, one of the mentalities that our culture has is, oh, well, the dog must know that that's a bad person. Well, no, the dog's just following orders from these police officers. But that's just some examples of all of this. You know, like here we have, President Bush, he's got his dogs. I'm sure when people saw that, all the critiques that they might have had about him or things they wanted to say about him, everything about him is going to be minimized because he has the pupper doggos. You know, and politicians do this all the time. Always, always have to put a dog with the message, like, to make it seem good. Like, vote. Everything is connected to using dogs as a virtue signaling type of thing. Now, some people probably thinking like, "Oh, that's a conspiracy theory." No way. But Adolf Hitler already did this. There's a long documentary on YouTube that I covered in one of my other videos. Adolf Hitler and the Nazi regime promoted animal welfare as part of their political platform, using it to gain support and influence among the populace. They enacted strict animal protection laws and positioned themselves as champions of rights, which helped to cultivate a favorable public image despite their oppressive policies against humans. Yeah, as long as he says that he's doing it for animals, the whole country fell for it. Everybody thought, oh yeah, we're gonna save all these animals. Yeah, meanwhile, what was he doing? He was using animals as a way to control the people because, Germany was full of all these animal loving people with their boxer dogs and everything else. And so people like celebrities and politicians and elite owners of businesses and stuff, they know what I'm telling you right now. And here's something else that they know. People make decisions that may be detrimental to themselves, such as spending excessive money on veterinary care, neglecting their own needs in order to provide the best care for their dogs. This can stem from a deep emotional bond, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, deep emotional bond, that's ridiculous. But yeah, people will sell their cars, they will not pay their bills, they will not get food for their fellow humans just to get some more stuff for their dogs. And even luxury stuff that dogs don't need. Ridiculous memory foam beds, over the top steak diets, home cooked freaking beef steaks, and all kinds of stuff like that. Meanwhile, their fellow humans need help. I mean, do you guys see what I'm saying here? Like, we'll have a community full of poor kids that need shoes and food, yet 5 or 6 of the people that live in that community are probably feeding hundreds of dollars worth of steak and hamburger to their dogs. Not helping each other out, instead helping out dogs. So this concept of manufacturing consent is written about by Noam Chomsky, and there's this book right here. But one of the ways that we use this manufacturing consent against our people is through mass media. So U.S. mass media serves as a powerful propaganda tool, promoting the interest of elite groups rather than serving the public good. So what does the mass media do? Constantly promoting dogs, allergy advertisements, movies with the bark tracks in the background. Like if you watch a movie, there'll be a scene where two people are hanging out in their apartment talking about something. And you'll hear a bunch of dogs barking in the background. Always trying to normalize dogs, always associating dogs with some type of pure and perfect thing. You won't see a movie today like Cujo or other of the older movies where they actually portray dogs as nasty as they can be. And so mass media serves as a part of this. So dogs are commonly used in mass media advertising because they evoke emotional responses and build trust with consumers. So this is a big part of marketing. You put a dog in any type of commercial and people will think that that's the thing to buy. They use dogs for the commercials for vacuums and house disinfectants because they'll have, the little video of the dog running around and the trash gets spilled and there's dirt all over the floor. And it'll be like for Bissell or Clorox or something. And, millions and millions and other, and there's all types of articles you can look up about this, how ads with dogs and cats affect consumer behavior. They're using this to control you. They're using the presence of the dogs to control what you buy. You buy stuff for dogs, but not for your fellow humans. And who else uses this? Just as an example, this manufacturing consent, sex offenders do this with dogs. It's called the pet lure or the dog lure. And there's plenty of information you can find about it, but you got to use, special keywords. But they use it to gain the trust of children, asking them to help or find care for the animal. This tactic exploits the child's natural affinity for animals. Well, I would have to disagree that a child doesn't have a natural affinity. The child is brainwashed as a little kid to think that dogs are perfect and think that they're lower than dogs. Like today's dog culture, we treat kids worse than dogs a lot, and kids see that. That affects those kids. And if plenty of articles that can be read about this, just a quick internet search. Many people have used the pet lure against kids and young women and other people. So, this is real. This is a very powerful thing that we've brainwashed ourselves into thinking that dogs are so great that we'll, let this type of stuff happen. And so, another thing that the communist regimes used is fostering divisions. So if we foster divisions, like this says, communist regimes employ tactics to suppress dissent and maintain control, and they use fostering divisions among their citizens to prevent unification. Dog culture fosters divisions all the time. Constant fighting, constant stuff going on. You can't even post on Facebook a legitimate complaint about dogs without having 5 or 10 people, jump on your back and call you a dog hater or something. Like some examples of that. Couples often get into disputes about pet dogs. The arguments can stem from various issues such as care, responsibility, training methods, blah, 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 blah. On and on and on and on. Where does the dog sleep? The dog pooped in the bed. All that kind of stuff. If it's the guy's dog, the guy will treat the woman crappy. If it's the woman's dog, the woman will treat the guy crappy. Yeah. So, what about dog parks? This is another example. There is constant conflict at dog parks between dog owners and dogs due to disagreements over dog behavior or failure to clean up after their pets. There's video after video, complaints, police reports, fights happening at dog parks because, a pit bull shows up and bites somebody's husky, but then the husky fought back, so it's the husky's fault. Constant stuff going on. And it's division. All these dogs, it just creates division among the humans. Also, just in the neighborhoods. Neighbors often have disputes over dog-related issues such as barking, property damage, aggressive behavior, on and on and on. And then the police have to come, the fire department has to come. After the pit bull bites 5 people, then they'll finally send somebody. On and on and on. Always having some type of conflict. So how can you get together and help your fellow humans when you're freaking fighting with them all the time? You can't. And how are you going to question your government or your local police policies when you're too busy fighting over dogs? And it's like that thing I said earlier about feeding raw meat and steak and hamburger to your dogs. How are you going to help your fellow hungry humans or humans that need a book to read when you're too busy feeding all that raw meat and stuff to your dogs? It's the same thing. It stows division, and it makes us not able to help ourselves and raise each other up because we're too busy fighting each other over dogs and then going back and feeding our dogs freaking top quality hamburger and other stuff. So let's look at one other thing that communist regimes do. But it's they exploit financial weakness to maintain control over the population. Economic instability can lead to increased dependence on the state for resources and support. Yeah, every time there's a dog fight, a dog dispute, something going on at the dog park, we need more police presence. We need more taxpayer-funded infrastructure for these stupid non-tax-paying dogs. And that keeps us too busy worrying about all that stuff than to actually, rise up in our government. And look at this. Many dog owners go into debt due to pet costs, with surveys indicating that about 37% of pet owners have taken on debt for their pets due to medical emergencies. An additional 76% would consider going into debt to save their dog's life. And we see this all the time with like really old dogs, and they're on cancer treatment and radiation therapy just to keep them alive. A dog that would normally pass away. And so, yeah, we are in financial stress over dogs. And so that's just another way to control us. Dog ownership creates all of these elements that I've told you guys before. And Hitler has used it, our politicians use it. Norm Chomsky told us about it in the mass media. And it's like I started this off with you guys. The United States has the most dogs. And other countries don't have this similar thing. So it's kind of hidden as capitalism. The other mainstream dog culture channels will tell you it's all because of these darn capitalists making money off of dogs. But in the long run, we don't make money as a country off of dogs. We become more socialist, and we become more communist, and we become less good to each other because we're too busy fighting with each other over dogs, and we're too busy putting dogs first. See you guys later.